Hello, welcome to the TECHunplugged Videocast. It's a brand new format we're trying here at TECHunplugged. I'm joined today by Arjan Timmerman from the Netherlands. Hello, Arjan.
Hi,
And we have
Max.
also, hello, Arjan. And we have our friend Joep, also from the Netherlands. What a surprise.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey.
So we thought that for this new season, we will be trying something a bit different than the usual, audio podcasts. So now you can see our very pretty faces. And I guess that we wanted to talk about a couple things about MobileEdgeX, on which we were both briefed. But maybe I guess we can just start by checking how things are going on your side. What's how's life, at least very briefly, on the COVID topic, and how's work from home?
Well, work from home is good. I mean, we get to, not work as much because, we don't have the commute. We can just wear the same clothes every day, bake pizzas over the weekend.
You still wear clothes?
No, this is actually a new virtual background.
Yep.
Okay.
So, well, it is what it is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, same here. It's crazy, but it's a crazy situation, but it is for us all. So, what can I say?
Yep.
Well,
It's Groundhog Day every day, except you're stuck with the family, with the kids. There's no escape outside.
Yeah,
I was gonna make another joke. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, but you have a briefing with a different vendor every night because all of them are stuck at home as well.
Yep.
Yeah. At least we have something to say, right?
That's very true.
So talking about briefing, I think that's a great introduction to MobileEdgeX. That's one briefing which I unfortunately missed, courtesy of family and COVID-19. So what can you guys talk a bit about what you heard and what it was about?
Yeah.
I think it's mostly on Joep because he understood what they said, but I just was like, okay, I can get a little bit of this, but not all of it.
I'm gonna pretend that I understood it. So what I figured out from their briefing was basically it is a marketplace of edge use cases or edge applications that that kind of runs on top of existing edge providers like telcos. So they seem to be targeting telcos way more than public cloud or anything else, which I think is an interesting take because telcos have a lot of edge locations. They are, by definition, a group of companies that have a lot of edge location and have a lot of consumers somewhere on their network. So, I mean, I like the idea of kind of targeting the telcos for edge use cases. And then the other part is, again, from what I understood, is that marketplace aspect of it, where instead of creating the applications themselves, they create the platform that the telcos can buy, and then on that platform, others can kind of develop and run their applications. So I'm not entirely sure what to think of it. I mean, I like the marketplace option, but I don't think the market is anywhere near big enough to, I don't know, it feels, maybe I don't understand it enough, but it feels like it's not the good fit. But maybe Arjan, do you remember the marketplace?
What I understood of it, at least when I looked to the slides that you sent me, because I didn't get them, but so what I get out of it is that they are targeting the telcos to become some sort of marketplace for them, so that they can sell all these edge use cases to the companies that need it through a marketplace. They want to bring everything together. So they want to bring together the developers, they want to bring back together the companies, the telcos, everything. And from there, they want to deliver what's really needed in those edge locations. And for what I could tell of it, it was they brought a whole spectrum of what they thought was really the edge location, where I thought, okay, you can see that as an edge location, but is it really an edge location, or is it just something that you could possibly deliver to your customers, which is a great use case. But then again, for me, we're working with one of the customers. We're working on those edge locations, and where I really thought this could be really handy is where you can get a group of people together and really leverage the telcos and the 5G or the 4G, what it now is, and make sure that you can deliver certain apps for the next generation of going into the edge locations. And that's what I got out of it, and I liked it.
Well, and considering where they came from, right? They were founded kind of like a bootstrap company within Deutsche Telekom a couple of years ago. So I get the focus on telco.
Yeah.
And there's something interesting going on with telcos because that 5G thing is coming. So everyone is kind of assuming telcos are going to be really important, even more important than they are now.
Yep.
But they don't have a kind of a front-facing or a customer-facing role in terms of compute. So they kind of tried getting a market space and a role like that a couple of years ago. So all of the telcos suddenly were providing like OpenStack-based services.
Yep.
And that kind of failed in terms of really getting the market to respond to them, to understand what they were doing. And so public cloud kind of blew that out of the water.
Yeah.
So I see a solution like MobileEdgeX. I see them as a kind of a version 2 of what the telcos tried with OpenStack years ago, only suitable, more suitable for today's needs, like processing on the edge, do video processing, do optimization, do a lot of those use cases.
Yeah.
So I totally get the technology. I like that it's a marketplace instead of a fixed set of applications because a relatively small startup cannot build out all of the use cases and all of the technology used for that.
Yeah.
But instead, the platform they can build, that's what they're there for. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what they will be able to tie into their platform, right? That's kind of where this whole thing will fail or succeed. How good are they going to be in attracting developers, attracting use cases on top of their platform?
Yep.
That's going to be the big one. And they'll need operators to like the telcos to sign up. They'll need developers. They'll need there's so much they need to figure out in order to be successful. I'm curious what your opinion is on how they will be successful, Arjan.
Yep.
So one interesting thing here is that if you think about it, there are already developers out there. There are already platforms to deploy services at the edge. So I get the idea where they want to go, but I'm just thinking, what is the real differentiator here? Because you already, if you want to get that and you want to build something like that, you can hire smart people, and build something similar. So I'm just trying to see what is the selling point of that kind of. You say that they're going after the telco providers, but is that a service that could interest, for example, big enterprises as well, or is it's really that targeted to the telco?
So, I think first and foremost, this is aimed at the telco, especially those telcos that don't want to miss the 5G wave, the ones that are, that were burned by OpenStack a couple of years ago. So I think a big part of their customer base will be those telcos that want to become relevant, stay relevant, be relevant. On the other hand, a telco is less and less unique in this world, in the sense that big enterprises are behaving like a cloud provider for a small part and behaving like a telco for a small part. And so there's a lot of characteristics that enterprises have these days that make deploying a platform for IoT for edge computing like MobileEdgeX, it makes it more relevant because those enterprises will have either a fleet of devices in warehouses or they have some e-commerce where they want to process a lot of data near the customer. I mean, the use cases are there, I think, especially for those that have a big online presence. My question is, for the more traditional enterprises, how relevant is this for, the companies that only have like enterprise IT, no IoT yet, no edge, only a small part is cloud, and most of that is infrastructure as a service instead of cloud native. I mean, I wonder how relevant this is for companies like that.
Probably not as relevant. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I think the big difference is that they are building a platform where everything is integrated into one marketplace where a customer can hook into a telco. And let's be honest, a telco these days is all of the telcos that I know of are doing stuff other than telco to generate money because the telco industry is not that good to make money. So they're all diving into the next generation where they can make money. They are either going with television. They're going with building their own cloud platform or something like. They're all doing something to generate money. So giving them a platform to hook into the edge is probably the differentiator right here, and getting it all together and making it one platform, that's probably the best money generating thing that they can have.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder in terms of edge locations, right? Are you going to use something like a Cloudflare or the traditional CDN based edges?
Yep.
Are you going to use public cloud? Are you going to use your local mom and pop data center around the corner that offer services like this? Are you going to use something like the telco edge locations? I mean, for MobileEdgeX, I totally get why they are a platform because they can run on all of those locations. But from a consumer perspective, a user perspective, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to use a public cloud edge location or a telco edge location. And having the ability to kind of deploy whatever I need, wherever I need, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think of it, at the very least, it's giving people more options. So
for sure,
it's
Yep.
to be evaluated. All right, so MobileEdgeX is definitely something we need to continue on following on.
Yep.
So maybe
so I want to make one last remark if I
yes.
can,
Mm-hmm.
because this whole thing is kind of, we're concluding, okay, people can run their edge use case anywhere across every platform, and I'm kind of curious what what the use cases are that are actually practical that people are using. And so I came across Seamster, which is kind of a use case community exploring what those use cases should be and who should work together. So I'm kind of exploring how that community works. It is something that MobileEdgeX is starting up as well, because I think they see the same problem, right? It's good to have a platform, but how do you figure out what use cases are applicable to your environment? So Seamster.io is where I'm going to go and find out more.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, I mean, the use cases also vary from vendor to vendor. MobileEdgeX might be advertising certain kind of use cases. We work together with Joep and with Arjan on a white paper for Tech Media, actually. And one of the things I was covering was a portion on CIoT from Nutanix and edge use cases. And when I started writing, preparing this paper, I had tried to embrace a broad aspect of IoT use cases. But then again, what you find out is that every company only supports certain kinds of use cases, or rather pushes through certain segments, certain verticals, because it's where they see where the money is, where they can, build up their first set of capabilities, and then they can expand if they see that there's more opportunities somewhere else. So it's really interesting to see that even though the finality is more or less the same, everybody's going in a kind of different direction. So it's really interesting to put those things in perspective.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So do you guys want to move along from MobileEdgeX and the fantastic world of IoT to something a bit more, containerized?
Closer to home, you're gonna say.
Well, closer to home for you. Closer to home for you. So do you want to tell us a bit, Joep, about was it the serverless days? What was the even name I forgot in Amsterdam you were working on? DevOps Days, was that?
DevOps Days, yes. Yeah. So DevOps Days is it's a beautiful conference. So basically, this is all of the community aspects of all of the conferences you go to, like good friends, good food, great social events with barbecues. Not too big, like the Amsterdam event has I don't know, maybe 500, 600 people. So it's a beautiful series of events worldwide. There are literally hundreds of chapters organizing this. And so in the Netherlands, we host one of the older ones, I should say, with a very unique view on how to organize events and do DevOps days. And so we figured,
I can interrupt you.
Yeah.
Is DevOps Days a kind of VMUX for the cool kids on the block during Kubernetes, or is that something different?
Well, no, it is different. So DevOps Days is not necessarily focused on technical content or engineers. It's more focused on the transition towards a DevOps organization. And so, of course, you need technology and tools for that. But mostly this is about people, and this is about creating a culture within your organizations where people are comfortable changing and experimenting together. And so the whole conference is more about those cultural aspects and those organizational aspects of change, of what is DevOps, how do you do it, which tools do you need, but mostly how do you get there? What can you do as a team or as a group of teams, a department or a business unit, whatever? How can you go from doing the traditional silo thing towards doing something collaborative, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole conference is more about that, and it shows in the type of talks because most of them are not technical at all. There's a lot of interaction. So instead of a full day of talks, in the afternoon there's a concept called open spaces, which is basically I have a good idea. I want to talk about product X, or I want to talk about how to hire the right DevOps guy, or whatever. I can create a discussion room, a physical room with a bunch of chairs, and people come into my discussion. And so there's a lot of interaction, and it's a real social event, even more so than the typical VMUG, because VMUGs are a vendor-based, even though they claim not to be. They are, of course, about VMware. And the other part is it is content, technical content that drives a VMUG, and that's totally different for a DevOps Days.
Cool.
But unfortunately, we are not doing physical events this year, so we made the decision to cancel both Amsterdam as well as the new chapter in Eindhoven, which I was helping to kickstart. So we're still determining what to do. We are evaluating a virtual event, but it's really hard to do a social event like this as a virtual event. So we are evaluating, we're thinking, but we are not sure yet. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to happen for all events all over the world. So yeah. So one of the other things is we finally had the opportunity to download the VMware version 7 stack. Any of you looked at it already or not at all?
So
It's all DevOps, right?
oh man, so I played around with the beta version of vSphere 7 and specifically the Kubernetes stuff.
Yeah.
And so I remember being at VMworld like 6 months ago in San Francisco, seeing a fantastic presentation by the famous painter Bob Ross, or as many within the company like to call him, Jared, which is his real name. And he did a fantastic job of talking about Project Pacific, Tanzu, that whole new thing VMware's doing. And I was totally enthusiastic because the way they architected it, or at least the way they presented it at that talk during a Tech Field Day, it was clean, it was sleek, it was small. I understood it. It was beautiful. And then the beta came out, and it was, I don't know, 40 gigs of download. I needed NSX, but not normal NSX, a very specifically customized version, which, to be fair, was only in the beta. Later on, they'll kind of broaden the support. But you need NSX, you need vCenter under the hood, you need vCenter, you need this, you need that. It's so complex.
So if I can jump into that reminds me of a conversation I was following on Twitter a couple of days ago with our good friend Keith Townsend from the CTO Advisor, and he was arguing with one of the big guys at VMware, good friend probably that we've all met at some of the VMware leader parties. And they were kind of arguing about the fact that, it seems like it's really bloated if you think about it. And VMware's kind of stance is, yeah, but we want to have this very tight, very sleek integration. And, I wanted to jump in. I said, I'm not going to be I would jump into conversation between two people, but it kind of reminds me of the whole VBlock story, we were promised mountains, this thing is going to be great, it's going to be integrated. And the reality of it was that it was so complex. To make it upgrade, it would take you like 7-8 days of coordination to do that. Don't you have that feeling as well? That maybe it's like it feels like overkill for the sake of fine tuning.
Yeah, it is overkill because I cannot imagine why I would need all those products from VMware just to be able to run a very tightly integrated Kubernetes cluster within my ESXi, right? It kind of defeats the purpose because the goal of Pacific was to bring native containers to ESXi. So instead of running VMs, run containers natively on top of the hypervisor, which is what they did. They have a runtime that does that. And then have a very small like add-on module to have a Kubernetes cluster, much like a vCenter cluster with ESXi hosts in a cluster. But again, the number of products that you need just to be able to get this working is it's astonishing. And to be fair, I mean, in VMware's defense, they have said that this release of Pacific and Tanzu is aimed at the enterprise customer that already has all of these products.
Yeah.
It should be, this version 1 should be a version with a lot of kinks, with a lot of bugs. But the big enterprises, VMware will help them to adopt this. And I kind of trickled down all of the lessons learned from that into, later versions that will be easier, smaller, more compact. I mean, they have publicly said that they were going to go that route. But even so, kind of my engineering heart kind of bleeds a little bit because it was such a beautiful presentation at a Tech Field Day 6 months ago. And then the reality now is that it's borderline uninstallable because of its complexity. And that doesn't help when, we're talking about Kubernetes, and Kubernetes is becoming commodity. It becomes easy to actually deploy Kubernetes as a managed service, like from one of the big cloud vendors, the big three, or a managed service like Platform 9's managed Kubernetes servers, and there's a bunch of them. So it becomes so easy to install that I don't see the complexity of what vSphere 7 with Kubernetes is now.
So is this what you're saying? Is there another option that we could use instead of VMware to leverage this in our company and maybe even in a distant future get rid of VMware altogether?
Yeah, maybe if I can add to what Arjan is saying there, I think the main sell point of VMware is you don't need to do a complicated thing, just keep our hypervisor and go along, right?
Yeah.
So to build on what Arjan says, is there an alternate enterprise class option to go? I mean, besides running native Kubernetes, of course.
I mean, yeah. So upstream Kubernetes is just a bad idea. You shouldn't do it. At least not in an enterprise context, right? So you need a managed service, and for a large part, Kubernetes is not a goal. It is something you do to obtain a different goal, right? You want to enable your developers. You want to be quicker to market. You want to have fully documented pipelines or whatever the goal is. So in each of those goals, Kubernetes is not the goal itself. It is something you do to move towards your goal. So I don't see where any level of complexity in that middle layer, in that Kubernetes layer, will help you get to where you need to be. So every little bit of complexity in those kind of middle ground layers, that's going to be detrimental to the adoption of your product. So and in VMware's case specifically, I mean, I don't see many companies deploying, at least, talking from a beta perspective, all that complexity. And I know it'll be easier down the road, but even then, I don't see many companies deploying this on that scale because it is so easy to just, take the easy route and do a public cloud vendor or do an on-prem, managed service.
Yeah, but then again, there are still a lot of customers buying into Cloud Foundation and all that kind of stuff, right? So from that perspective, I can understand what VMware is trying to do. They're just trying to bind the customers to them that they already have, and maybe one or two will see something in it and say, okay, we'll do it also. But it's probably mostly just to bind those customers to them that they already have. It's just to tell them, okay, you know what, you want Kubernetes, here you have it.
Yeah, and I get it from VMware's perspective. I just don't know for sure if many CTOs or IT managers or CIOs will actually buy into this level of complexity. That's my fear.
Well, yeah, that's a fair argument. But also, if you look at it, there are other vendors which are trying to come up with similar stacks where they have an hypervisor and they have a customized environment. We were at Cisco Live Europe in Barcelona a couple months ago. It feels like it was like maybe a decade ago.
No,
right?
there were people in the plane with masks on their face already because of the COVID-19. So it's not that long ago.
Even the guy which was removing it to talk.
That one.
Okay, yeah, but the point with HXAPs was that they are also trying to do something similar, which is they are binding their own data platform, their HCI solution, Cisco's HCI solution, and build this kind of environment and add the features. But I do get your point, which is that when you move to the VMware option, it starts being a kind of a cake, a very indigest cake layer of many options and products crammed in together. So ultimately, it comes back to what you say, that customers have the choice. But you can, I don't know, you can go this route if you don't have that much confidence, perhaps, or that much experience, or if you want to have all the things streamlined, and if you're a heavy VMware shop, perhaps.
Yeah, that's totally true.
So I think we need to close this.
Really? Why?
Yeah, it's going that quickly.
You don't like being with us. That's it.
I can go on for hours, but yeah,
Well, next time, Max, we'll do it without Arjan.
Oh no.
Do that.
We have to do it with Arjan, otherwise it's not fun. And not that you're not funny, of course, but it kind of feels less like a podcast or videocast and more like some kind of friends reunion after 2 months or 1 month of isolation. So.
Isn't that what all podcasts are? Come on.
Yeah, kind of. accept its voluntary isolation until now. All right. Well, thank you, Joep, for being here. Thank you, Arjan, as well. I think we can call it a day or a night here in EMEA. Yep. And I think that's an experience we have to try soon again, right?
Yep.
Thank you all, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.